Hey everybody, what is going on? I am Maximus Rex and this is Big Baby Reviews. So today is Saturday, it is Eric Larson Day. We're looking at the next issue in the Savage Dragon series, issue number 16, cover dated January 1995. Not much to say about the cover other than I've been talking about the colors being a little murky these days. Here's a good example of one that is not at all murky and pretty clear and easy to read color-wise compared to past covers. So this is maybe the point where the colorist starts to realize, or maybe Eric Larson tells them, like, it's like start brightening up those colors a little bit. Definitely to better effect on this cover here. Savage Dragon still under the influence of some sort of weird larva. It's been happening to a bunch of people, right? I think going back to the Shrew with issue 1, it was kind of revealed later on that he had been under some sort of mind control bug. And that's what the Savage Dragon, that's the spell that he's under in this issue. Overall, the cover, I mean, other than reminding us of this new character introduced last issue, Mace, and a cool shot of the Savage Dragon, it's your pretty typical cover. It does remind us that also because of Savage Dragon's rampage there, Alex has been put in danger and has been wounded. And yeah, pretty much is representative of the middle of the storyline that we're kind of jumping into with this issue. So let's crack her open, have a look inside. As usual, creator, writer, penciler, inker Eric Larson, letterer Chris Eliopoulos, colorist Ruben Rude, Antonia Cole, and that's where we're going to stop. So this is a pretty clever, again, I'm pretty sure it was last issue's review, or maybe the one before. Eric Larson had kind of done a kind of a recap issue in an interesting way, storytelling wise, and he's just doing not so much of a recap here as a origin of the character of Skullface, because we've gotten hints and this and that, and the fact that his skin is translucent rather than him actually being a skull and all this stuff. But basically what very quickly Eric Larson is giving us here with this first page is the origin of Skullface, and the I won't read the whole thing, but basically some sort of found some sort of nuclear juice or something and gave him superpowers and made his skin translucent, everything except his skeleton and his hair apparently, and I would assume his eyes as well, right, because we can see them. But yeah, continuing from last issue's fight against Frank Darling. And, Skullface has the upper hand here, jumps down, and I'm not quite sure what happens here because, Frank kind of lifts this pole here or swings it. I'm not quite sure. It says shing, right? And then on this page here is like, has he been impaled or has he just been hit in the face by it? I think he's just been hit in the face by it, but it's an odd bit where rarely does Eric Larson leave me kind of wondering what's going on 100%, and I'm a little bit confused here, but, it's not the end of the world. I guess, I don't think he actually skewers him with it, right? But although, because it's so thin, I don't know, just a weird choice, maybe storytelling-wise. And then we kind of see the result here that of him hitting him in the face there. I don't know exactly what's going on there with Skullface's eye. I might find out later on. We'll see. So back to story A with Savage Dragon, again being mind controlled by this leech on the back of his neck or his head, although we can't really see it here. Maybe that's on purpose. I don't know. And last issue was confronted by Mace, and now is being confronted by Mace's Mace. Good close-up here. Eric Larson always adding in those speed lines, those action lines, whatever you want to call them. And he's using the old Dale Keown screen tone here, the parallel lines for the shading on the face here, which I think looks pretty cool. Pretty cool close-up shot there. He's got a bunch of stars, ninja stars stuck in his head and his body, pretty much everywhere. And Mace just continually, Eric Larson was always good at depicting that kind of relentless violence in Savage Dragon. That's kind of what you're getting here, right? With like, what really does it here, which is, I think, is very cool in the composition of this page, is, the different panels. It's like, you've got Mace here, kind of a mid shot. Then you've got a close-up of his, psychotic kind of face. And then you've got a close-up of the Mace and close-up of the Savage Dragon all bloody and stuff. And you've got this line effect kind of going through all 4 panels, right? And that's kind of the connecting effect. And, between images of just still, a still object, a still character, that's what's creating in your mind, I think. Like, I imagine, and again, the sound effects, only comics can do this, right? The sound effects give you that repetition of the hits, right? So even though you're only seeing the Mace once, you understand that this is just Mace kind of continually pounding down on the Savage Dragon with his mace. So yeah, like how do you convey that? You know, this, it's such an abstract kind of thing that he's done here, but I think completely works, right? The panels as well kind of get even more, you know, at a more extreme angle, and the line gets even more broken up as it moves along. This is a great page for implying a lot of violence, but not actually showing it really. Great page. And here's a good example too of sometimes it's funny because with the Skullface sequence, what I was noticing, and Frank Darling, the chase here and everything, what I was noticing is the background, you know, when you see the characters very small, you can really see how sometimes like, so Skullface is down here, you see his silhouette projected on, his shadow projected on the wall of this building, and then you see Frank Darling at the top here as a silhouette, but like, oh man, like Erik Larsen spent all of like 5 seconds drawing this, right? And it's fine, it works, right? Sometimes like small little cheap looking drawings just work. Another example of this on this page is, you know, really good shot here, not a lot of detail because it's far away, and you simplify and stuff, don't add too much detail. And I even think that you know, the hair was added in later with a bit of white medium is what it feels like there. Like, it's funny because if you just isolate this, it's almost like he's using a lot of like Bill Sienkiewicz techniques and just this panel here, and I would say maybe a little bit across this page here and there. It's got a bit of the Bill in it. This is a great shot, and with the uplighting and stuff, like, just, yeah, the uplighting just makes it so much more dramatic. Very cool. Giving us a lot of splash pages in this one. Not that I'm complaining. Erik Larsen never cheaps on the storytelling, so for once in a while to kind of maybe be having fun in one issue just doing lots of splash pages, I won't fault him for it. The all splash page issue was cool, right? So I guess it's a little more obvious here, the depiction of the slug. So he gets smacked in the face with a mace, and then, yeah, so you do see it a little bit here on the base of his skull here, where the neck and the skull meet. And what eventually happens, of course, is Mace hits him here and kills the slug. So Savage Dragon is back to his normal self, but, you know, Mace doesn't realize it, or does he? Because, you know, Christ, where the hell am I? What's going on? Stop. He's coming out of it. Don't hurt him. I don't give a damn. So he doesn't even care that Savage Dragon is not being mind controlled or has come back to his senses or whatever. It's pretty funny. He's kind of a sadomasochistic version of Batman. I remember, like, for years, it's funny, people would talk about the BDSM kind of layering to Batman in the fact of the costume and the leather and the masks and stuff that they wear, I guess, when they do that stuff. People, I never really realized it until I saw a picture. Someone had a picture of the Ben Affleck Batman with no ears, and all of a sudden it dawned on me when I saw that image for some reason. Yeah, the whole BDSM aspect of Batman's costume, it was very obvious. And this Mace guy is basically kind of that, right? To a certain extent, there's some BDSM in his costume there. Doesn't he have straps and stuff? Like, see, later on we'll see the front part of his costume, but yeah, I feel like there's a BDSM vibe to him. See, I'm not quite sure what happened to Skullface's eye. I guess he got smashed so much that some of the radiation that he's got is kind of emanating out. Again, like, the textures here and the inking and stuff on this whole sequence really gives me kind of Bill Sienkiewicz vibes in the inking of it. And I get it because it's raining and stuff, and, you know, it's dirty and grimy. Yeah, it's just something about it I really like. Just a lot rougher than usual, even though he can have, like, it's even this page in opposition to this, there's a different kind of approach to the textures and stuff. Almost reminds me of It somehow, the old TV movie, right? When he gets smashed in the eye and, like, some light comes out of his head and stuff. I don't know if that's where he may have come across the visual and used it here, maybe. I don't know. Back to a sequence with the Savage Dragon. So Mace, you know, now that Savage Dragon is back and conscious, smart enough right away to just wrap the chain around his hand here, pull Mace towards him, and, you know, beat the snot out of him again with the Savage Dragon one punch KO here. A lot of dirty inking. See, this is what sometimes as an artist you might be afraid to do, is you've done all the inking and it looks cool and stuff, and then you just come in and throw in some dirty ink, is how I would describe it, right? Over here and stuff. some blood, you know, you might be afraid to do it, and it's, you know, worth it. It works graphically here, right? It's the opposition of the dirty, kind of shitty inking versus the slick, fairly slick and controlled stuff that makes that work. Even though just a little bit of splash over here where I guess the contact happens, I think is pretty cool too. It's a nice little touch. Eric Larson never disappoints in the art department either, and it's always very dynamic. You know, I've said it, and everything moves. I love how he does the full bleed again. You know, the move to image. I think he was doing it maybe again those Spider-Man issues he did after McFarlane, because that comic was full bleed, one of the first ones at Marvel. I say one of the first ones, I think. You know, maybe Prestige stuff was done that way, but like regular kind of, excuse me, monthly comics, I think maybe Spider-Man was one of the first ones, X-Force as well, right? Because those artists were asking about it, like, hey man, how about we start just doing these pages full bleed? And when they moved to image, they all just went full bleed, which makes total sense to me. So yeah, punches the crap out of Mace, and I really like the shot here where he's kind of realizing the damage he's caused. And the fact that Larson here has done this thing where this was open, obviously a darker color with a bit of a fade into light was used here, like a gradient, right, for his pants and the ground. But this would have been wide open and white, right, in his depiction in black and white. So it's kind of a McFarlane thing to do something like this, where McFarlane's done this a bunch of times, right, and then you just add whatever darker color in there. I think it works pretty well here. I think it looks good. I don't know about the digital stars. There's just something. There's a slight blur on them or something. I don't know. I don't know if that works. I mean, it works, but I don't know if I like it. So back to this gritty sequence again. Frank and Skullface fighting. So this is the one too. Again, where I was talking about how he draws like a character in the background very small. Like again, this probably took 30 seconds to draw here. Frank Darling hanging off the side of the building, because he kind of goads Skullface and moves over. Skullface basically lands on an oil tanker, right? And just the little insert panel here of Frank lighting the flame. We don't get the repercussions of that right away. Back to story A. Come back across the so-called she-dragon, right? Star's kind of limping off, gets into a car. I may have a concussion. I think my leg is broken. I screwed up, boss, obviously. So now there's, setting up another subplot here, or a mystery. We know about Star a little bit, but like, who's this guy, right? Who's boss? We don't know yet. Again, that clever Eric Larson writing. Yeah, so you see a bit of the straps here, and they finally unmask this guy, see his face, and realize who he is. We get kind of an insert panel here that shows us a shot of him before some sort of obviously horrendous accident. And again, just like Skullface at the beginning, he used the newspaper clipping to clue us in, right? Which I think is pretty clever for exposition, rather than maybe the McFarlane technique, which would be like maybe this whole headshot, a black background, and all of this kind of in text and narration. I think it's much more palatable and easier to kind of digest as a newspaper article for some reason. It's like a slight mind trick, I guess, but I think it works much more storytelling wise. The little bit of like dirty fingered ink on top of the paper is pretty cool too. You used to read newspapers and flip pages, and the ink would get on your hands, and you stuff like this would happen. Obviously very old school. You wouldn't do this today. You'd probably do this with like a blog page or something, or some Reddit post, some Wikipedia article or something, I guess. But yeah, I think it's just a clever way to get the story across. And we get the origins of, again, this guy was in some sort of bomb detonation accident and burnt off, the top part of his head. He was like this kid sidekick, kind of Robin figure, kind of Bucky, I guess. Who was, it says in the article, was destined to be, he'd have joined Youngblood and become a wealthy celebrity. As it is now, he'd be lucky to get a job selling pencils on a street corner. It's pretty funny. And now we're back to Skullface versus Frank, right? And we get the big explosion. Pretty dramatic, well done. Very kind of abstract and dirty once again. Just a little bit of figure work here on a shadow of the silhouette, rather, of Frank Darling on top of the building still. Put us back into context. Shot of Frank kind of beaten up, kind of Danny Glover style, right? He's kind of Danny. I don't know why I didn't think about this before, but Frank Darling is basically, he's got to be based on Danny Glover, right? So, a quick flip through before I do the review, right? I looked at this Proton pinup by Jerry Ordway, and then yeah, I know it has nothing to do with the Savage Dragon, but it's pretty cool, huh? So, I like Jerry Ordway generally, and if you're gonna, kind of set up the image like this, you're kind of doomed to fail. I think a little bit doomed to fail. And as much as I like Jerry Ordway's artwork, it's a little mainstream and stuff. This character just doesn't do it for me. I don't think it does it for anyone. I don't even know if this was ever a comic. It's basically just a pinup here. The alien looks kind of cheesy and 50s sci-fi-ish. I don't know. Yeah, just, for the image age, I don't know about this. You tell me what you think about Proton and whether or not you'd be looking forward to a series with this guy. Like, it's kind of it's the 90s now, at this point it's 1994, and it's kind of a very kind of 80s design. I don't know how to describe it. Just kind of old, unfortunately, at that point in time. So Dragon trying to help, repair some of the damage he's done, finds Alex, and then all of a sudden this guy shows up. Leave her alone, you green freak. Haven't you done enough? And he's like, who are you? I'm her boyfriend. Now get the hell out of here and leave us alone. Oh, baby, what did he do to you? So Dragon, once again, always being beaten on and beaten by life, as it pertains to his relationship with women, friends or otherwise. So we see these guys who kind of confronted Savage Dragon last issue, the Shrew, right? I don't know these other characters' name. He calls her Widow. That sour-faced cop he's got, he's basically like Sin City-faced cop, I guess is what I'd call him. Is giving him some shit here for having destroyed the, half the city, caused so much damage. Probably killed some people that we're not really talking about here, I guess. I like this profile shot of the dragon here. I don't know what it is about, like, just the simplicity of it and this kind of lighting, the line here that delineates it. I think it's sharp. It's kind of cool. It doesn't look like usual, typical kind of Eric Larson, but I think it looks really cool and it works. This shot is amazing. The coloring on it is good. Yeah, I just think that looks really awesome. Now, as to whether or not Skullface is actually dead or not, I guess we'll find out in later issues, but it looks pretty bad for him right there. Whatever it is, it looks dead. So, he's kind of leaving it open. And as a creator, a guy who's up to, like, I think 200 or close to 275 issues or maybe past that of this series, you leave it open for, later storylines you might want to, fall back on. But again, he's good at developing those B, C, D, even E stories sometimes. There's another example in this as we move ahead that I'll point out. He's juggling a lot of stories and then, kind of resolving them or you think he's resolved them, and then he kind of brings it back even further. So yeah, when I get to it, I'll explain that. We get this gentleman again, R. Richard Richards, I think is his name. He's the J. Jonah Jameson, obviously, of the Image universe, or at least the Savage Dragon universe. And, basically being set up in that same role of hating the dragon. And, of course, what's just happened is just one more example that he uses to fuel the fire that is, his hate of the Savage Dragon, just like J. Jonah Jameson hates Spider-Man. Interesting kind of choice for this background there. I think it works with his, fiery personality and the color choice and stuff. Just a nice abstract choice that works really well. And I guess in this issue, he's just going for that newspaper article thing. So he's doing it again here. And I like, so I was talking about, storylines and stuff. So for, I think since issue 1, maybe, of the Savage Dragon, or even the miniseries, I'm not even 100% sure. It's been a while back. It was hinted that this lady here, this old lady, was the Savage Dragon's mother, and that the Savage Dragon may be, in fact, her son. I forget his name. It's Rodney Schwartzblatz or something like that. Yeah. So we've seen hints of this, and eventually in one of the past few issues, we saw Rodney, and he kind of realized his mom was looking for him. And he's like, oh my God, I don't know exactly what he was up to. He's hanging with some Nazis and stuff, possibly on drugs or something. But he realized he had to go see his mother. So they reunite on TV, right? So, Mother was reunited today with her long-lost son, Rodney. After making the talk show circuit, convinced that Officer Dragon of the Chicago Police was her son, she was surprised to find. So the other officers pointing out to Dragon, that this is on TV and stuff. He's not going to have to deal with the old granny anymore. You no good drag ass, low life, good for nothing bum. How could you let me go on and make a fool of myself on TV like that, Ma? So just this little subplot that I thought was finished when we just saw Rodney realize he had to go back and make talk or call to his mother. Basically, they actually have this extra little sequence in here, which I thought is good writing, is really funny. Again, is what makes the Savage Dragon much better writing wise than all the other Image series, or most of them, anyways. And then, of course, we can actually, after all this kind of crap that's been laid at Savage Dragon's lap, you can finally get a little moment of respite here. And he says, I just love a happy ending, right? And this little sequence was fun as well. You've got Mace in the background there getting arrested and kind of roughing up the cops that are processing him. And Savage Dragon says, hold on a second. And just, walks up, and he doesn't yell or anything, but sit down and do as you're told, right? And Mace kind of just sits back. Yeah, there you go. There's the sadomasochistic aspect of it, right? The kind of straps going across. Part of his body is naked. He's like BDSM Batman, basically, is what Mace is. At least that's how I see him. All right, so some more relationship scenes with Savage Dragon here. Gonna be a lot of shots, I think, of Savage Dragon kind of half naked with Rapture here. That happens for a while there, and Larson really pushing, I guess, how far he can go with and how much he can show in his comic. I mean, really, ultimately, I think if he really wanted to, he could, show some actual nipple or vagina or whatever the heck, and he might eventually do that later on, years later, but he doesn't do it at this point. I guess, again, he knows his audience, and also maybe the distributors and retail and stuff, those people would start to complain a little bit if there was too much nudity in the series. So as a young boy, I think we all appreciated these shots of Rapture, right? Let's just be honest. And establishes that side of his relationship, but then brings back this lady here who has now been taken over by, if you remember the character, I'm pretty sure his name is the Fiend, who takes over bodies and then attacks the Savage Dragon. Now he's really bonded with, a person who really hates him, which is the mother of his ex-girlfriend that basically was murdered while she was at his apartment, right? In some of those earlier issues, it was the story that was meant for Image Comics number 0. So again, another good example of how stuff happening way back when is coming back to haunt the dragon. And it's like every little subplot that kind of trails off comes back at some point to bring back into the A story with the Savage Dragon. So he's very clever at doing that, and it makes for as an ongoing series, him being able to continue to produce and hopefully not get too stale, right? And then we're basically left with a narration from another character. We can tell because, again, another thing I do have to mention, I guess I should mention this with the lettering, sometimes good lettering just doesn't get in the way and you don't notice it because it's good. And I got to point out that all these choices, the color, the different graphic expressions of the phylactery, the color of the letters and stuff, all very different, all giving different characters different voices, right? Like obviously Savage Dragon, has probably a mainstream kind of average male voice, maybe a bit deeper, is how I would imagine it. Rapture as well, right? But her, she has some sort of like demonic kind of raspy kind of scary thing to her voice. And then this one here, I don't know exactly what it exudes, but again, definitely a different character, different lettering, different color, again, different visual expression of the phylactery, the word balloon. And then finally we meet this character, and it's Hive. No, I'm just kidding. It's a Horde, who to me is basically just... Isn't there a character called Hive who's made up of bees or something in Marvel and looks like this? I understand there, I've seen it a lot in Rob Liefeld, using a lot of analogs that basically are exactly or closely the same to Marvel characters and DC characters. I know Larson did it to a certain extent. Sometimes it's far enough where it's cool, kind of original here, or maybe it's a little too close, is what I would say. But it doesn't in any way bother me in the sense of the enjoyment of the comic. But I'm like, that's a pretty on the nose there. But I guess if that's the kind of character you want to play with, that's what you do. Something interesting in the depiction of the cape, right? Just more of an Eric Larson kind of way of a Spawn's cape or something. There's a bit of inspiration, but then through the filter of Eric Larson's kind of finishing and rough inking, I think it looks pretty cool actually. Again, helps to create a lot of layering and dynamics in an otherwise kind of static image. Always like characters for some reason whose eyes glow. I think it always kind of ends up looking pretty cool. Another little bit here, I would say, of that Sienkiewicz influence to the Eric Larson. And there you go. That's the end of that issue. Some guy had a kid. Some guy got married. Two guys got married. I guess these are Eric Larson's friends. And I thought this one was pretty cool here. The other one's meh. And no ads near the end of this comic, I guess. So that's it, except for this Dragon Blood and Guts by Jason Pearson, which I've seen before and has some amazing art. Maybe we'll get to reviewing that at some point, but there you go. That was today's review of The Savage Dragon, issue number 16. You got questions, comments, concerns, you let me know right below in the comments. If you're subscribed and you're still watching videos, thank you so much. I really appreciate your support and you checking out the videos. If you are watching videos but are not subscribed, please do so below. It only takes a second for you, really quick, really easy, and it helps the channel out greatly. Helps get us out there to other people who are like-minded and like the same kind of stuff that we do, namely comic books. So everyone out there, have a great weekend, have a great Saturday, and have an awesome day. King Comics presents Big Baby, Volume 1, Issues 1 to 13, 204 pages of story and art. King Comics also presents Star Crasher one-shot, 32 pages, cosmic sci-fi surrealist adventure. You can find these fine comics at KINGCOMICS.CA, at MaximusRex13 on Instagram, or on Facebook, MaxRex or Big Baby.
Like! Subscribe!